Guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, The Bright Side Girl, and today we're going to be doing my April reading wrap-up. In case you missed it, I will link my April TBR up in the cards as well as down below in the description. Again, I know I'm a broken record talking about this. I have a giant list of unfinished series that is everything that I have started from the time I started doing booktube, which is the time I started reading like 100+ books a year. Book series that I have not finished that I want to finish. So if I read the first book in the series, didn't love it, don't want to finish the series, it's not on this list. I had this going for a while and I finally decided like 2 years ago to really start working on it, especially last year. This year I want to get the number down to below 5, which includes any new series that I start this year. So what I do is I start off the year with a number and then I don't add to that list anything new that I've started throughout the year until the end of the year, because that gives me time to finish anything that I've started. Hopefully that makes sense. So for this year, I started off with, I think, 27 unfinished series. I've been slowly chipping away, but I decided for April to dedicate the entire month to just finishing series. I think I only read one thing that was not a part of a series, and it technically kind of was. So that's what this stack is. So it's going to be a lot of sequels, so I'm not going to be able to go into too much details, but I will give you the information about the first book and what I feel about the series. Hope that makes sense. And then I'll give you an update of how many I have left at the end of the video. Okay, so we're going to start from least favorite down to most favorite. So first up, I DNF'd Burning World. Normally when I DNF, I do not count them on Goodreads or rate them. This one I got about 75% in and decided that I just wasn't that interested anymore. It's not a bad book. I'll explain what it's about in a minute, but I went ahead and counted this as read because otherwise I was going to force myself to finish it and I didn't want to. But I got really far in. This is a huge book. It's like almost 500 pages and I got close to the 400 mark. And I did it via audio. So this is part of the Warm Bodies series. So I had a little bit of a dilemma. Warm Bodies, I really enjoyed the book. I really liked the movie. The movie follows the book pretty closely. This was a continuation of the story. If you're not familiar with Warm Bodies, it is I think it's considered young adult, but this is leaning more towards adult. Zombie series about a zombie boy develops feelings for a girl and falls in love. And you're following that as well as this like post-apocalyptic world, and whenever he like eats someone's brains, he gets their memories, and he eats this one guy's brains and he gets the memories of his girlfriend and he falls in love with the girlfriend. Really interesting, very unique, very fun. This is a continuation of their story. This is very slow, which Warm Bodies is a little slow as well, but it's shorter and it was very dark, like much darker I feel like than Warm Bodies was. And it was written really well and I was interested in it, but I just didn't have a desire to continue on. And the third book in the series was self-published, so it is not easily accessible. You can't get the physical copy and the ebook's like $10 and I was just like, I'm gonna call it good. So I gave it 3 stars even though I didn't finish it. This is like the only time I've ever rated something that I've DNF'd because I feel like you should read the entire work to rate it properly, but I feel like I got a good enough gist to explain it. This book is very cool though. It has like cool little graphics at the front of all of the chapters. So, DNF category. Okay, so then I didn't have any 2 stars. Yay! So my next 3-star was actually the prequel to Warm Bodies, which was A New Hunger. The narrator for this one was really good. This was a prequel. You're learning about how the apocalypse kind of came about and the zombies and everything. It was very short. I actually enjoyed this one quite a bit. Again, fairly dark. This one leans a little bit more YA. So again, it was probably like a 3.5 star. All right, the next series I started working on, and I did these via audio as well, was the Sears Trilogy by Ray Carson. So we had Like a River Glorious and Into the Bright Unknown. I'm just gonna hold up the second book for right now. This is part of a Western trilogy, the first book being Walk on Earth a Stranger. And our main character has the ability to sense gold in the earth, and because of this, her family kind of like protects her and kind of keeps that hidden, but kind of uses the ability as well. And then when something happens with her parents, she winds up having to kind of go on a journey and go like kind of on the run. It was a good choice for Hike-a-thon if you're interested, because it kind of has an elemental magic but also a survivalist theme to it. This is the first Western book I think that I've ever read. I so enjoyed the atmosphere of being like in the West with the gold and the horses and the wagons, and it gave me like a Little House on the Prairie for like adults / young adults vibes, but it's very slow and not a lot happens. I wish we had more to do with the gold magic. There's not really much of that comes into play until the third book. And the third book felt a little disjointed. It almost felt like the start of the series rather than the end, because we've got some more information about why she has the gold magic, and we got introduced to some different characters. And I felt like I wish this would have been the first book. So overall, I think I gave the first book 4 stars last year when I read it for Hikeathon. I will link that vlog up in the cards as well as down below if you're interested. These were probably only about a 3, maybe a 3.5. It's still an enjoyable series. If you want some different vibes, check it out. But it's got some darker topics. We've got slavery topics in here. There's some mild abuse with like the characters. The uncle is kind of chasing her and he's like captures her and is like kind of abusive in those ways. So a little bit of trigger warnings. It is still YA. So keep that in mind. But I do really like the Western atmosphere, and I've got a couple other Western reads that I want to check out. I'm going to try to do at least one during Hikeathon. So about a 3.5 as a whole. All right, next we have the Bloom Trilogy by Kenneth Opel. So the last book that I had to finish was Thrive by Kenneth Opel. I talked about this last month because I got to the second one, which was Hatch. So in this series, there are these rains that come down. I think they're on an island as well. And they bring these like seeds, and the seeds produce these like monstrous plants that like start to take over everything, and everybody is freaking out and they're trying to figure out what's happening. So we have like a survivalist type element. You're following 3 teens, and each teen has something kind of unique and strange about them, and you're getting different perspectives. You're getting friendship building. It's got like an apocalyptic vibe to it, but also a little bit of a nature element with the plants, trying to figure out where they came from and all that jazz. So I really enjoyed this series. I think I gave all of them 4 stars. I was middle grade at first, but these are definitely more young adult reads. I really liked the last book in particular. One of the more solid apocalyptic series that I have read. Definitely still has younger YA vibes, so kind of keep that in mind if you're not into YA like I am. But I thought the friendships were really neat. I liked where the story went. It was very action-packed and fast-paced, so you were never left kind of boring. Has some dystopian elements to it, some like ability elements to it, and I really enjoyed my time with it. The narrator was, I believe, Sophie Amos, and she was really good as well. Yay! So 4-star series. Next, we did the Something Strange and Beautiful trilogy. So we did Something Strange and Lovely and Strange Ever After. So this, again, is a zombie trilogy. Apparently I like zombies, you guys. I learned this about myself last year. I was in the car with Jeff. I think it was like around Halloween, and I was like talking to him, my husband, and I was like, I'm a zombie person, which I'm normally like, I'm so bright and bubbly, you just wouldn't expect it. And he was like, no. I was like, no, I think that I like zombies. He's like, no, you like warm bodies. And I was like, no, I think that I am a zombie person. And he was like, no, you just like Zombieland. I was like, no, I like Resident Evil. I like Maze Runner. I like Will Smith's zombie movie. And I started naming off all these movies and then all these books. And he was like, quiet for a minute. And then he was like, I think you might like zombies. So I learned this about myself last year. I don't like the gory, intense, scary aspect. In fact, most of the stories that I like are not really that scary, but there's something about the like survival element and like whether they have humanity or not. Like, I guess it just appeals to me. So a lot of these series are left over from Halloween time because I start a lot of new series around that time. Normally I would only read those types of books around like the fall Halloween because I like all the vibes, but we're getting some series done this year. This is a Gothic Victorian zombie trilogy, which Gothic Victorian is like my favorite thing ever. I believe this is set like in the early 1900s, and we have like the undead. You've got this whole society where girls have to meet certain expectations and do like the courting and all that kind of fun stuff, but then you have these undead that come in and kind of throw that all off. And our main character has to deal with that and find her brother who has been missing, I think, since he like went to the war. And there's like magical elements and things in it too. It has a little bit of a Sherlock mystery about it. I really enjoyed these, especially the last book. It was really good. It was very heartwarming. It went a lot more detailed and intense than I was expecting. Like, this is a solid fantasy Gothic trilogy. So I gave them all 4 stars. I really enjoyed them. I really liked some of the characters. I did feel like in the last book, some of the characters were getting a little bit mean with each other and like argumentative. That sounds kind of strange, but I felt like some of them kind of needed to get over some stuff and the drama was a little too intense, but I really enjoyed it overall and would definitely recommend, especially for fall and Halloween. So yay. Oh, and the narrator for these is one of my favorites. I really, really loved her and she did a great job. Okay, then I physically read three things, one of them being The Maiden Ship by Michelle Reichman. So this I reread. This I technically read half of because I read the first half last year, like before Christmas time, to reread it so that I could read the second book. I have the second book on order. It should be here tomorrow. This is a self-published book, so it's a little bit harder to find. It doesn't have an audio, but I'd heard amazing things. It's got mermaids and like ships and magic, and it's so good. This one you're following Dane. Sailed his entire life on this ship with his father, and then his father dies and he winds up being the captain of the ship. And then he wakes one day and finds a mysterious woman in his cabin. He winds up getting hunted by empty-faced demons and learning this whole magic system. This is very detailed, but not in like a hard to follow way. And the ship elements and the little romance in here is so good. I just really, really enjoyed it. And I'm glad I reread it because I didn't remember like a ton about it. So 4-star read, and this would be great for Mermaid Marathon. Then I reread Splintered by A.G. Howard. The narrator right here. She's okay. She's not my favorite. If you are on the fence about audiobooks versus physical, this is one that you could probably physically read because the story is solid and really good. The narrator's not my favorite. She's not bad, but if you struggle with audiobooks at all, I would do the physical. So this is part one of a Alice in Wonderland quartet. And I read this last year or the year before and I wanted to finish it. So I'm currently reading the second book right now. So in this one, we're following Alyssa Gardner, and she can hear the thoughts of plants and animals. But madness runs in her family. Her mother's like at an insane asylum, and she's kind of trying to block out that part of herself. Her mother is famous for having told Lewis Carroll her illusions, which inspired Alice in Wonderland. And so now she's wondering if there are illusions or if there's some truth to them. And you basically get kind of thrust into this Wonderland world. This is not a full retelling where it just follows all of the stories, but it's a solid retelling. You get a lot of your favorite characters in here. Things are a lot twisted and different than you expect. I love the elements with her talking to like bugs and plants and things. And there is a fun romance in here. There's a character in here that is kind of similar to Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart, or like Legend from Caraval, or there's another character like that in Entwined by Heather Dixon. If you like that kind of like grand puppet master, whimsical, lovable, but like can't be trusted type character, this is a good one to jump into. So enjoying it, and I'm liking the second book right now. 4 stars. Then I did Aurora Burning on audiobook. This was again another reread. This is a full cast recording. This is the second book in the Aurora's Cycle trilogy. First book being Aurora Rising. This is a very, very good trilogy. I actually just finished the third one as well, but I'll talk about that in my May wrap up. So in the first book, this is a sci-fi space themed trilogy, kind of hard to explain. So the year is 2380. We're following Tyler Jones, who is about to like recruit his own team to recruit for different space missions, and he winds up having to rescue this girl and kind of go on the run with his entire squad of like ragtag characters. So that's a loose description. I am really enjoying this trilogy. However, I would not recommend it if you are new to space sci-fi books. This is not the one to jump into. There are a lot of point of views. There is a lot going on. It's a very pretty series though. I love J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman's other series, the Illuminae Files. I think that one's easier to follow even though it looks harder. I've actually reread Aurora 3 times and reread this one twice just to remember everything. It's just very, very detailed, and there is a lot of characters, a lot of backstory. The world is very thoroughly built, very good overall. For that reason, I gave it 4 stars because it also isn't like fully sticking with me. I have other books that are complicated like this that stick with me a little bit longer, but this is a solid space sci-fi themed trilogy. The audiobook is really good. You've got a full cast of narrators. They're all the same people that did Illuminae pretty much, and really, really good, but very different from that series. So 4 stars for this second book. Okay, so next we have the Cirque du Freak series. This is a 12-book series, but all the books are like 200 pages or less. I'm doing them on audio. They're very short, like 4-hour audios. So I did 4 and 5. This is a middle grade series, and this is following a young boy who discovers this like circus with his friends that have all these like freaks, wind up being kind of more magical. He runs into like a vampire, he gets into some trouble, and he winds up having to be a vampire's assistant. So that's the gist of it. And each book in this one, it follows like its own complete story, kind of like how Harry Potter does. And I really like that because it still makes you want to continue on, but it's got a complete like plot line around it that doesn't meld too much into the next book. And this is a very dark series. series for middle grade, but it's really good. It's very fun. Ralph Lister is the narrator. He is so good. I am so enjoying the audiobooks. Go by really quickly, so this is what I'm definitely going to finish this year finally. I didn't read these as a kid. They probably would have been too scary for me personally, but I am loving them as an adult, and they're perfect for spooky season. All right, then the last two were my 5 stars, and these are ones that I physically read. So I read Space Boy Volume 14, newest edition of the Space Boy series. This is a graphic novel set in space. I've talked about it over and over again because I love it so much. You're basically following a girl that grew up on this spaceship where her parents worked, and she winds up having to come back down to Earth and get cryogenically frozen. Takes 30 years to get there, so she's got no idea what's happening and has to kind of relearn everything about the world and Earth itself, and she winds up running into this boy who's kind of strange, and she's trying to figure out things about him. So this is very heavy, like space sci-fi themed young adult graphic novel. Might be my favorite graphic novel series. I'm not sure. I'm loving them more and more as they go on. I'm about to go pick up the 15th one at the library. Completely obsessed. It's so sweet and precious, but fun and adventurous. Love. And then the other 5-star I had was also a graphic novel. It was The Demon in the Wood, which is part of the Shadow and Bone series. So you could technically count this as part of my series to finish as well. So this is a prequel following the Darkling, basically, and how the Darkling came to be in like his youth, in like his teenage years. This was excellent. It was just so good. If you love the Grishaverse, if you want to learn more about the Darkling or just the world in general. The art is beautiful. It's an extremely quick read. It was done really well. I think there's another graphic novel from the Grishaverse I need to check out. Love. So good. Solid 5 stars. Okay, you guys, so I think that is everything that I read for April. I had a pretty good reading month overall because the last week of the month I went on vacation and we were on a cruise ship and I read like hardly anything. So all of this was read in the first 3 weeks of April. So I thought that was pretty good. So I read 11 audiobooks. So we've got those here. I thought that was pretty good. And then 3 physical books, which was okay. 2 of them were graphic novels, so not the best. And then this is how my unfinished series are looking right now. So I'm doing pretty good. So I think at the end of April I had 15 left out of like the 27. So pretty good. Not too shabby. I will be continuing to finish series the first 2 weeks in May, so I won't have a TBR out for that. Then I will stop and do Hikeathon. My Hikeathon TBR should be out, so I'll link that up in the cards if you haven't seen it already. And then I think I'm going to keep doing this in June, maybe throw a few other things in here until Mermaid Marathon, which will be at the end of the month. Try and get these really knocked down before fall so I can be a little bit more free and start some new things. I've only started 2 new series this year so far, and both of them are duologies. So I don't have too much to add to the list, and I'm going to try and finish those before the end of the year also. Hope you guys had a good reading month in April. Let me know how May is going for you as well. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at The Bright Side Girl and hit subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys next time on The Bright Side.